Hello and welcome to the 15th episode of the Practical PM, your friend, philosopher and guide to product management. In this episode, we will continue with the theme that we had started in the last one, that is tech for product managers. In the previous episode, we took a look at the architecture and design of the code, and you would recall that in any real world system, there are multiple pieces of code that talk to each other and work with each other to give a complete experience. In this episode, let us try to understand a bit about how these different pieces of code talk to each other. If the entire system is in one programming language, then almost all programming languages have artifacts like functions, objects, etc., which define what individual pieces of code do, and these artifacts can call each other in a way that is specified by that programming language. So you can imagine a product page function which calls a product details function with the specific product ID for which it needs the information. When the product details function is called with this product ID, what it does, it goes ahead and reads the product information from the database, again for the product ID with which the product page function had called it, and then it returns those product details to the original product page function. Product page function got all this information and then it goes ahead and renders this page according to the design that has been coded there. This works when the entire system is in one programming language. However, in most of the products today, that is not the case. At the very least, the front end of the product, the piece that the users see, and the back end of the product, which interacts with database, where most of the calculations and processing, all that heavy lifting is done, they use different programming languages or framework. Many times, even within the backend or the front end, it makes sense to use different programming languages for different pieces, because certain programming languages may be more suited to a particular task, or even because different team members have different capabilities in terms of using the languages. So it makes sense for us to have a way of communicating between different pieces of code without them knowing the internal workings of the other piece, including the language used. The most common way to achieve this is the use of APIs, which is the next important concept you should get very familiar with. The full form of API is Application Programming Interface, which does not tell much. Simply put, API defines a way of sharing information irrespective of the internal workings of the code. Internal working, as I have mentioned earlier, includes the programming language used. The most common kind of API these days is REST API. REST also has a full form, but that will also not tell you much, so I am skipping it. Instead, let us see what a REST API for an e-commerce product looks like. The backend of your product will expose a URL, something like this. This looks just like any other URL you will use to access a web page, and it indeed is like that. Now you see from the URL itself, you can guess what this URL is for. It is for getting product details. Then the front end of the code, whether it is the page displaying the product information or the page displaying the order information, can hit this URL with the information about the product ID they want to get the information for. So the URL that they hit would look something like this. It is exactly this URL, but with this extra parameter which passes the product ID to the backend through this URL. When this URL is hit from any kind of code, the backend will look up the information for this product ID and return that information in a format that is programming language agnostic. One of the most common formats used these days is JSON. So your product information returned by the backend can look something like this. and you can almost read it like English. The ID, name, manufacturer, category, price, description, and any other information that you can think of. Then the front end, whatever language it is in, will read this and then render it according to the design that has been coded in that piece of front end code. So all programming languages just need to provide a way of hitting the URLs with product information and of reading the JSON format. Then they can talk to each other. APIs are such a well-defined and well-adapted way of code pieces talking to each other that often, even when different modules are written in the same programming language, they talk to each other using APIs. What the shared language of APIs makes possible is not only an organization being able to use different languages in different pieces of code internally, it also makes it possible for the code of two different organizations to talk to each other without being worried about the internal structures of their respective codes. In a modern software product, you end up integrating with any number of external solutions and products, and APIs are what make these possible. Let us see some examples. Have you ever used Razorpay, PayU, or any of the different payment options that are available digitally now on an e-commerce store? If so, they were integrated using an API. Have you seen similar looking chatbots on many different products? If so, the company providing the chatbot solution also provided an API using which different organizations could include the same chatbot in their respective products. And remember, when we talked about event analytics tools like Mixpanel and Amplitude, they are also integrated in your product using an API. Now let us understand some of the other terms that you would come across while using APIs. The first one is an API endpoint. Each URL that can be hit in a REST API is called an API endpoint. One API endpoint will typically perform one specific function. It may take some input, do some processing at its end, make some changes. Then it will send a response with at least success or failure information. The response may also contain some more data. If we go back to the example of the display of product page in an e-commerce setup, then you would remember that we had seen an API endpoint like this. When this API endpoint is hit with the product ID as an input, then the backend tries to retrieve the information about that product ID. If it is successful in doing so, then it returns a success response along with the product information as data. Another part of an e-commerce product can be the seller's interface. This piece will allow sellers to create new product in the system. In order to facilitate this, the backend will expose another API endpoint like this, which allows creation of the product. When this API endpoint is hit by the front end of the seller interface with product data, then the backend will create that product and send a success response. In the response, it can also include the ID of the newly created product. A product or a module will typically expose multiple API endpoints for different tasks. And that brings us to the second most important term, which is API documentation. Put simply, an API documentation is a document that lists down all the endpoints, their inputs and responses. For example, see this snippet from the API documentation of Shopify. Shopify, as you would know, lets anyone create an online store easily. But it also exposes an API for the developers and businesses who want to build on top of Shopify. This snippet from their API documentation here shows some of the endpoints that they expose and what each of those endpoints do. So for any merchant on Shopify, an approved piece of code can retrieve a list of products, retrieve a count of products, retrieve a single product, create a new product, update a product and delete a product. Now, how is all this important for you to understand as a product manager? Suppose you are a company that allows custom designed t-shirts printing. You may realize that a large number of your customers are designers, and ideally, apart from printing their designs, they would also like to be able to set up an online store to sell the products based on those designs, which uses your printing facility in the backend. Now, if you wanted to enable this yourself for your customers, you will have to build the entire e-commerce infrastructure. Or the other option for you is to integrate with something like Shopify. When you know that Shopify exposes an API that lets you do all this, you will not need to build the entire e-commerce infrastructure yourself. Instead, all you will have to do is take the designs uploaded on your product and using these APIs, create corresponding products on the Shopify account of your users. The users will get all the e-commerce features without you having to develop it. The ability to read API documentation is a great asset because it lets you quickly figure out what all is possible to build on top of another product or solution. You can expect APIs to feature in our conversations in the upcoming episodes too. In most cases, I will assume that the API we are discussing is a REST API. However, know that there can be different kinds of APIs. The newest, fanciest kid on the block is GraphQL. So if you want to nerd it out, go ahead and read up on it. In the next episodes, we will continue the Tech for PM conversations and we will talk about concepts like libraries, SDKs, frameworks, webhooks, single sign-on, etc. However, I will end this episode here. Please do tune into the next episodes as well. Thank you so much.